Hello, I'm John David Bruja on location in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Stanley Park, standing in front of the Brockton Point Lighthouse. And welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner. Hello, I'm John David Bruja on location in North Vancouver, British Columbia, standing in front of Point Atkinson Lighthouse. And welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner, United States Lighthouse Society, Alaska Cruise 2026. On this cruise, we hope to see, of course, lighthouses, and we'll be taking a Holland American cruise line up the inside passage to the last frontier, Alaska. We'll see more lighthouses, glaciers, whales, other wildlife, and who knows what else. I hope you enjoy the ride. And welcome to a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner, the prequel. Like usual, when Carlene and I go on these tours, we usually arrive a day or two early, and this trip is no different. Carlene and I arrived a day and a half early to Vancouver, British Columbia to do some sightseeing. And high on the list was Stanley Park. But first we have to leave our resort at the River Rock Casino and head down to the Bridgeport station and board the SkyTrain, go down to downtown Vancouver to the waterfront, take a short walk, and then board the hop-on, hop-off bus and head to our first destination, Stanley Park. Stanley Park is Vancouver's first park, named after Lord Stanley, 16th Earl of Derby and Governor General of Canada. The 1,001-acre park is located in the northwestern half of Vancouver's downtown peninsula, surrounded by water of the English Bay and Burrard Inlet. Stanley Park is 1/5 larger than Central Park. Now on to our next attraction, the Stanley Park Totem Poles. It all started in the 1920s in hopes of reconstructing an authentic replica of the First Nations village site, with each carving on the pole having a specific ancestral meaning. In 1962, the totem poles were moved here, and the most current pole, carved from western red cedar, arrived here in 2009. And it is one of the most visited attractions in Vancouver, British Columbia. But now we leave the totem poles and take a short walk, because there was 2 lighthouses that we wanted to check out. First up, the one behind me, Brockton Point Lighthouse. It was established first in 1890, the current one behind me in 1915 at a height of 35 feet. It was automated in 1956, and the park, Stanley Park, was dedicated in 1889. It is 2 kilometers east of Prospect Point Lighthouse. It was designed and constructed by Colonel William Anderson. And yes, it's a pivotal movie location from 1993's The Crush, with Dorian played by Alicia Silverstone, where she kisses Nick, played by Carrie Elways. Unfortunately, the house and surrounding gardens were paved over for a parking lot, and is now managed by the Vancouver Park Board since 2006. Next up on Stanley Park's prequel day, we got to see Prospect Point Lighthouse. First established in 1898, the current one behind me at a height of 27 feet arrived in 1948. A boat and bathhouse arrived in 1900. Located on the northwest corner of Stanley Park and located below Lions Gate Bridge, which was constructed in 1938. Prospect Point Lighthouse was electrified in 1926, and in 1948, another red light atop a square pyramidal cement tower was painted white with a single red horizontal stripe built by J.C. Dill for over $7,700. Both Prospect Point and Brockton Point are owned by the Canadian Coast Guard, and if we are lucky, we will also get to see both these lighthouses on our cruise when we leave Vancouver. We left Prospect Point Lighthouse and made our way out of Stanley Park and headed to our next destination, the Vancouver Maritime Museum. The Vancouver Maritime Museum opened in 1959, and one of its featured displays is the St. Rock, an Arctic exploration vessel used by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We were able to board it and walk around and check out its many different rooms before heading to the other part of the museum. You could spend hours checking out the different exhibits and galleries to see and learn more about the maritime history of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and the Canadian Arctic, as well as checking out all of the artifacts on display. We left the Vancouver Maritime Museum, stopped for a bite to eat at a brew and pub restaurant, and then caught the SkyTrain back to our hotel before we went and had our welcome dinner with the rest of the group from the United States Lighthouse Society, thus ending day 1. Welcome to day 2. We left our resort, boarded our bus, and made our way through Vancouver, British Columbia. We then crossed the bridge and entered North Vancouver, where we made our way to the first lighthouse on the tour in Lighthouse Park. Now, getting to Point Atkinson Lighthouse was a trip. The bus left us off at the top of the hill, and we had to walk about a half a mile all the way down, up and down through the park to the lighthouse. Well, we reached our first lighthouse of the day, and it was a hike. Point Atkinson in British Columbia. First established in 1875, the current one behind us at a height of 60 feet came in 1912. It is the first lighthouse to arrive in Vancouver, located along a rocky bluff in Lighthouse Park. And for all you movie buffs, that's right, it was in the opening credits of 1999's Double Jeopardy, starring Ashley Judd and Tommy Lee Jones. Colonel William Anderson designed the hexagonal tower with a beacon lit 95 feet above sea level, visible for 14 miles. A fog alarm arrived in 1889, and in World War II, searchlights and gun emplacements were installed. And Point Atkinson Lighthouse is still active today. And it is another lighthouse owned by the Canadian Coast Guard. Well, we left North Vancouver and Port Atkinson Lighthouse and headed back downtown to Port Vancouver to board the Holland America to take our cruise to Alaska on the Konningsdam. Well, our cruise started, and as we left port, there was already lighthouses to see. First up on the port side was the Brockton Point Lighthouse, which Carlene and I had seen on our prequel day before our actual tour started. Next up, as we approached Lionsgate Bridge, was the other lighthouse we saw, Prospect Point. Then after we passed through the Lionsgate Bridge, we approached our next lighthouse, this time on the starboard side, the one we had seen earlier in the day, Point Atkinson Lighthouse. Then we traveled a bit, and next up on the port side was Balanis Islands Lighthouse. First established in 1900, the current one you see was in 1917 with a focal plane of 70 feet and a height of 35 feet. Then it was back onto the starboard side. Oh no, that was a trick. They ended up having to take it on the port side. It was Sisters Islet. It was first established in 1898. The current one you see in 1967 at a height of 60 feet. The most easterly and largest of the three rocks was selected for the lighthouse, and it obtained a fourth order Fresnel lens in 1914. A new white cylindrical tower arrived in 1967, along with a 4-bedroom keeper's house, a fog signal building, and a helicopter landing pad. Sisters Islets was destaffed in 1996. And then one of the last ones I saw on day 2 was later in the evening, Cape Mudge. First established in 1898, the current one you see in 1907 at a height of 40 feet. Well, of course there were a couple I missed, especially during the night, but I did wake up in time to see a beautiful sunrise, and I caught Pine Island, which was established in 1907, the current one in 2001, with a focal plane of 93 feet. Welcome to day 3. Not going to be as hectic as yesterday. Today is a relaxing, probably 1, 2, maybe 3 lighthouses, some sightseeing on the cruise ship, and who knows, we may get some shopping in there. Well, unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of lighthouses today, but we did pull out another one. Bonilla Island Lighthouse, and it is quite a bit in the distance. Established in 1927, the current one, 1984, at a height of 33 feet. But despite that, Carlene and I were kept busy taking a stroll around the ship and getting our exercise while enjoying the wonderful views, and ended day 3 with a show. Welcome to day 4. We are in Alaska, the 49th state, the last frontier. We'll be going to our first port, Juneau, Alaska, of course, the state capital, and we'll hopefully be taking a cruise to see Sentinel Island closer. We are in Juneau, Alaska. It was a territorial capital of Alaska in 1906 and became the state capital of Alaska January 3rd, 1959, when Alaska became the 49th state of the United States. What's unique about Juneau is there are no roads connecting it to the rest of Alaska or North America. The only way you can get here is either by air or by sea. We have a little time before we're going to go see Sentinel Island, so guess what? Carlene and I are going to do some sightseeing and some shopping. But now it's time for a boat ride. But first, a quick stop to the Mendenhall Glacier, just 12 miles out of downtown Juneau. And then it's back to the boat and our next lighthouse. Well, we finally made it to Sentinel Island. First arrived in 1902, the current one behind us in 1935, at a height of 51 feet. And it is the first lighthouse to be lit in Alaska. The first lighthouse that was built in 1902 was built completely by wood. Attached to the center of the keeper's duplex, a large 2-story building. In fact, the original duplex and lighthouse foundation is still visible. Also located at one time was a oil house, a dock built of wood pilings, a boathouse, a hoist house, and a second hoist house, and a 360-foot tramway which led from the dock to the lighthouse. And it was actually the path we took to the lighthouse and back. The one behind me in 1935, a Art Deco lighthouse, was built completely in cement and housed a fixed 4th order Fresnel lens. The only original piece is the casing that surrounds the lighthouse. We get to climb 45 steps, but unfortunately not all the way up to the lantern room. But heck, we'll take it. Sentinel Island Lighthouse was automated in 1966, and thanks to our captain, we were able to enjoy a view of this lighthouse from the water. We're back on the boat, so now it's some nature watching and some whale watching. But before we even left the dock, We looked up in a tree, and at the top we saw a bald eagle. Well, we got to see some orcas. And it wasn't just one or two, but we saw a family of orcas. And then some sea lions, a whale in the distance, and to end our day on the boat ride, we got to see another bald eagle. And we got to see a special bonus lighthouse, Point Retreat Lighthouse. First established in 1904, the current one that you see was built in 1923, at a focal plane of 63 feet, and it is 25 feet in height. Well, wrapping up day 4, we made it to our first port, Juneau, Alaska. We were able to do some sightseeing and shopping, and we took a boat ride and was able to check out Sentinel Island Lighthouse, go inside and climb almost all the way up to the lantern room, and then do some wildlife watching. We saw orcas, bald eagles, sea lions, humpback whales, and a bonus lighthouse, Point Retreat Lighthouse. Thus ends episode 1. Don't forget to catch episode 2 of the Alaska Cruise 2026. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. A show of this magnitude takes a lot of people, not just in front, but behind the camera, to help me put it together to bring you a quality show. And at this time, I would like to thank those people. I would like to thank our travel by air, Delta and United, for getting us safely to and from Vancouver, British Columbia. And I would like to thank the River Rock Casino Resort in Richmond, British Columbia, for providing us wonderful accommodations. I would like to thank our bus drivers, the one that took us around Vancouver and North Vancouver to see Port Atkinson Lighthouse, and then back down to Port Vancouver to drop us off in front of our cruise ship. And also the bus driver that took us to and from our cruise in Juneau, Alaska. I would like to thank the captain and the crew, Mac and Coral, and our guide naturalist, Grace Ann, for providing us excellent information about wildlife and lighthouses on the tour with Harv and Marv's Outback Alaska Whale Watching Tour. And I would like to thank all the residents at the ports we stopped at in Juneau, Skagway, and Ketchikan for making us feel welcome in their cities. I would like to thank Holland America for providing us safe travel from Vancouver, British Columbia through the Inside Passage up to Alaska and the 3 ports and back aboard the Konningsdam, and for their overwhelming hospitality from the entire crew throughout the cruise. And I would like to thank the United States Lighthouse Society for providing us this tour and our tour guides, Margie Rowland, Kelly Bowers, and Mike Rosenberger. And finally, I would like to thank the hardest working travel consultant, photographer, and shopper, my wife, Carlene because if it wasn't for her, this trip would not have been possible. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm John David Bruja, on location in Alaska, standing in front of the Sentinel Island Lighthouse. This has been a special edition of John's Traveling Movie Corner, United States Lighthouse Society, Alaska Cruise 2026. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Bye.